Hi, I'm Mina.
And I'm Yules.
Thanks for tuning in to Artificially Informed.
Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take the entire chaotic stack of global information, the science, the geopolitics, the tech, and really distill it down into what you need to be foundationally informed.
And this week, we are diving into some truly seismic shifts.
We really are. I mean, what if everything we thought we knew about, say, the global warming timeline was just fundamentally wrong?
Or even how we calculate our dog's age, something that seems so simple.
Exactly. And then what happens when political power starts, aggressively rewriting the rules we've relied on for biology, for media, for national identity?
Indeed. Our mission today is really all about those foundational shifts. We've got material that spans from some shocking updates in environmental science.
I saw that one. It's a big deal.
It is. All the way through to breakthroughs in cellular biology that could redefine aging itself. And we're going to connect these scientific corrections to the geopolitical dramas unfolding in Europe, the Middle East, and the United States.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
I think we have to start with what might be the most unsettling correction of all.
Earth's historical temperature.
Yeah. This isn't just some minor revision, is it? It's a complete overhaul of the climate baseline. And that changed the context for every single policy decision we make from here on out.
This new research on the global warming timeline is creating a genuine crisis for climate scientists. And more importantly, for policymakers who are relying on those, existing climate models.
Because the findings are basically telling us our history books on the climate crisis are wrong.
Exactly. The problem is much older and much more advanced than we've been calculating.
It sounds like it challenges the entire baseline of the Paris Agreement.
It does.
And the key finding, which has been reported all over the scientific press, it comes down to a surprisingly humble organism.
The sea sponge.
A sea sponge, of all things.
That's right. Scientists use the carbonate skeletons of sclerosponges. They're literally rock-hard sponges, which can live for centuries.
So they're like a historical climate record.
Precisely. You can think of them as the ocean's version of tree rings. The chemistry that gets locked inside their skeletons, it captures the precise temperature of the seawater from the moment they grew.
So they took this really precise 300-year-long data set and compared it to the conventional records.
Right, the instrumental sea surface temperature records. And when they did that, the discrepancy was, it was alarming.
So what did the sponges actually reveal about when human-caused warming started?
They shifted the timeline back dramatically. Our conventional records, they placed the start of rapid, human-induced warming relatively late, maybe post-1940s in a lot of cases, or the late 19th century.
Okay.
But the sclerosponges pointed to significant warming beginning around the mid-1860s.
The mid-1860s, so that's a shift of roughly 80 years.
80 years. It's a massive shift backward in time.
80 years is huge. That means we've been systematically underestimating the total warming effect of human activity for, 8 decades.
Exactly.
So what does that massive shift do to our current benchmark? That 1.5 degrees Celsius target from the Paris Agreement that everyone is aiming for?
To put it bluntly, it makes it almost meaningless. Or rather, it confirms we've already failed to meet it. The analysis, which was published in reports like Nature Climate Change, it stresses that if we start the warming clock in 1860 instead of later,
Right.
global warming is now at least 1.7 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels.
Wow. So the ceiling we were all scrambling to avoid, that point of no return that so many scientists feared, we might be living under it right now.
That's the existential thought, isn't it?
It is.
And the ramifications are immediate.
How so?
Well, first, this data directly challenges the efficacy, the predictive power of our existing climate models, especially those used by the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, because their baselines are now almost certainly flawed.
So all the predictions are based on bad data.
It seems that way. And second, this heightened urgency is terrifying for low-lying coastal regions, for nations in the global south that are already suffering disproportionately.
Because if we're already at 1.7 degrees, the window for mitigating the worst effects is.
It's essentially closed. We have to shift our policy focus instantly from mitigation to massive-scale adaptation. This isn't some distant future threat anymore. This is our current reality.
That is a harsh reality check.
Oh.
Okay, let's pull back from the planetary scale to the cellular scale, because science is also rewriting the rules of aging right inside our own bodies.
Yes, moving from fixing the world to fixing the powerhouses of the cell.
And this work on cellular rejuvenation is genuinely revolutionary, isn't it?
It is. The core problem of aging is cellular decay, right? And that's primarily driven by the deterioration of the cell's power sources, the mitochondria.
The mitochondria, I remember that from biology class.
As they decline, they cause something called cellular senescence, which is directly linked to almost every age-related disease you can think of. So the goal is to basically recharge these failing biological batteries.
And the breakthrough came from researchers at Texas A&M University who developed something they're calling nanoflowers. It sounds very delicate for something so powerful.
They are powerful, but they're incredibly tiny. They're these novel nanomaterials designed to act as conduits.
Conduits for what?
They specifically enhance the transfer of vibrant, healthy mitochondria from strong, young stem cells to neighboring aging or malfunctioning cells. It's essentially a precise, targeted energy transplant on a microscopic level.
So if the mitochondria are the batteries, these nanoflowers are acting as, what, high-efficiency jumper cables?
That's a perfect analogy, exactly right. Studies show that these nanoflower particles allowed healthy stem cells to effectively double their usual mitochondrial output.
Double it.
And dramatically increase the efficiency of the transfer process. So this invigorates the aging cells, restoring healthier, more youthful function.
The applications for this must be enormous.
Huge. It opens up all these new avenues for therapies targeting devastating degenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
You're rebuilding cellular resilience from the inside out.
But this immediately raises a question for me. If we can literally revive and rejuvenate aging cells, what's to stop this from becoming a commodity just for the ultra-wealthy?
That is the critical ethical pivot point.
It could accelerate global health inequality,
right.
right? Or just be misused for vanity treatments.
Absolutely. While the initial focus is on treating severe diseases, the underlying technology, the control over cellular aging, does bring us into a territory where biological boundaries become negotiable.
So we need to get ahead of it.
Society, policymakers, ethicists. They need to establish frameworks now. We have to ensure these rejuvenation technologies prioritize broad public health benefits over exclusive access. Because if we successfully unlock the key to cellular longevity, the societal impact will be just as profound as the scientific one.
And that leads us, naturally, to the most fundamental question we all face: the definition of mortality itself.
The discussion around life and death is becoming less about philosophy and more about, well, applied neurology. And that's thanks to new research into NDEs.
Near-death experiences.
Exactly. Traditionally, death has been viewed as this fixed, irreversible point. It's tied to cardiac arrest and the subsequent loss of brain activity.
But this new research suggests that brain activity during NDEs might not be just a post-mortem hallucination or some final flicker.
That's the core finding. It's been reported in publications like the New England Journal of Medicine. The electrical activity seen in patients' brains after cardiac arrest could be indicative of organized cognitive functions.
Functions that actually outlast the heart stopping.
Functions that outlast the cessation of the heart and breathing. Yeah.
Yes.
So if we can map these cellular and functional states of the brain that persist beyond the traditional definition of death, it makes the concept of death far more fluid.
So things that were once relegated to science fiction, reanimation, long-term resuscitation,
they're becoming practical scientific inquiries.
If that line between life and death is getting blurry, especially if these cellular states in the brain can be revived, what does that mean for medical protocols right now, today?
It creates immediate, profound ethical and logistical concerns. I mean, think about organ donation protocols.
Right. They rely on the certainty and the speed of declaring brain death to ensure the organs are viable.
Exactly. But if there's a potential for lingering or even recoverable consciousness, those protocols have to be re-examined immediately. It also pushes the boundaries of resuscitation science, forcing hospitals to question how long they should attempt revival.
So it's not about bringing people back from the dead tomorrow.
No, not yet. But it fundamentally redefines how we approach end-of-life care. It focuses our attention on preserving neuronal integrity during those critical health events.
Okay, we've tackled the fate of the planet, the future of human cellular life, and the fluidity of death. That's heavy.
It's a lot.
Let's shift gears slightly to an equally fascinating area of biology that hits a little closer to home for millions of us, our canine companions. We've got some startling news about their physical evolution and a major correction on how we measure their lifespans.
Yes, the world's most domesticated animal is still evolving, and in a really mysterious way.
Hmm.
Recent studies on thousands of different dog breeds suggest an unexpected evolutionary change.
Which is?
Their brains are actually expanding in size relative to their body mass.
Wait, really? I thought the standard trajectory for domestication was the opposite. Animals tend to lose brain mass because they don't need the same complex survival skills, right? They sort of outsource that to us.
That is the fascinating paradox. The evidence points directly to their intense ongoing coevolution with us. We are the driving evolutionary pressure.
So their brains are getting bigger, not to survive in the wild, but to survive with us.
Exactly. The growth is linked not to needing to hunt, but to the necessity of navigating our incredibly nuanced, complex social environment. They have to read human intentions, follow subtle gestures, understand elaborate vocal commands.
And we've been selectively breeding them for jobs that require high cognitive function.
Herding, security, complex scent work, all of it.
So their enhanced social cognitive skills, their ability to read human facial expressions, which they're better at than any other species, that's the primary driver for this brain expansion.
Precisely. It's an adaptive response to succeed in the human world. They're constantly solving problems related to novelty and social cues. It just underscores how deep that canine-human bond is. It's now dictating biological morphology.
So is bigger always better? Is a bigger brain a smarter dog?
Well, we have to add a nuance here. Brain size alone doesn't determine intelligence. Smaller breeds, especially some of the older ones, show incredible problem-solving adaptability. But this general expansion across the domestic species is a significant evolutionary marker. It suggests the job of being a dog is actually getting harder, requiring more computational power.
That is fascinating. Now let's talk about something every single dog owner gets wrong.
Tell me.
Calculating their dog's age. The age-old, totally ubiquitous equation of age times 7.
Officially, irrevocably busted.
And it's misleading because it's a linear model, right? Yeah.
And it's applied to a profoundly nonlinear biological process. Dogs age at an exponential rate early in life, and then that rate slows down relative to us. They reach biological maturity incredibly fast. In fact, the times 7 rule totally misses.
I remember reading about the complex formula from researchers at the University of California, San Diego. It involved logarithms, part of the Big Dog Aging Project. But, listing a complex equation is pointless for a listener. What's the core insight from that math?
The insight is centered on the rapid epigenetic changes in a dog's DNA. Specifically, they track the methylation markers in the genome. And the curve shows this explosive jump in human equivalent age during the first year. It means the puppy stage is far, far shorter than we imagine.
Okay, so give us the relatable examples that will stick in our memory.
If you thought your 1-year-old dog was a 7-year-old child, think again. The accurate model shows a 1-year-old dog is roughly equivalent to a 31-year-old human.
31. So they're biologically a full adult.
A full adult, and by the time your dog is 2, they're already pushing 42 in human years.
So that explains why my 2-year-old dog seems to have completely abandoned all the training we invested in that first year. He's just hitting his midlife slump.
Perhaps the canine version of the existential crisis. But the real-world value of this more precise model goes beyond just trivia.
It must be crucial for veterinary care.
Absolutely crucial. Vets can now make much more informed decisions about preventative care, dietary adjustments, screening for age-related diseases. And it also confirms that larger breeds tend to age and decline faster than smaller ones, which reinforces the need for tailored health strategies based on a more accurate biological clock.
Okay, we've established our planet's timeline is wrong, our cells can be rejuvenated, and our dogs are secretly intellectuals. Here's where it gets really interesting. We're moving from internal cellular energy to signals that defy the very laws of physics and capturing planets being born across the cosmos.
Let's start with a scientific puzzle that could fundamentally rewrite physics textbooks.
Yeah.
These strange radio signals coming from the coldest place on Earth.
Antarctica.
Antarctica. You're referring to the ANITA project. That's the Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna.
So what exactly did ANITA detect that is so baffling to scientists?
Well, ANITA was designed to observe high-energy cosmic neutrinos. These are ghostly, near-massless particles that stream down from space. And according to the standard model of particle physics, they should interact with the ice surface and then scatter downwards.
Okay, so they come from above and go down.
Right. But instead, Anita detected these mysterious, ultra-high energy radio signals that appeared to be emanating upwards from beneath the Antarctic ice sheet.
Wait, coming up through the ice, why is that physically impossible based on what we know?
Because the signals defy conventional particle physics. A particle energetic enough to produce this kind of radio wave should never be able to traverse the Earth's density. Reports from Penn State researchers confirmed that the angle and the strength of these signals mean they just shouldn't be producible under our current knowledge of physics.
So what's the theory? How could they travel through the Earth?
The only way is if they possessed far less mass and interacted far less with matter than any known particle.
So the potential breakthrough here is staggering. It either means our understanding of neutrino physics and how cosmic rays interact with matter is catastrophically wrong, or
It points towards something truly exotic. This could be evidence of a sterile neutrino, a type of particle that's been hypothesized but never observed, or it could even be a precursor signal related to dark matter.
so it requires a complete reevaluation of our scientific frameworks.
It challenges the standard model that has underpinned physics for the last 50 years.
Mhm.
Future ANITA missions are already planned specifically to capture more data on these unprecedented waves.
Meanwhile, the European Southern Observatory, or EHO, is giving us this gorgeous visual look at creation in real time.
They're literally capturing planets being born.
It's a spectacular confluence of technology and astrophysics.
It is. The ESO captured 51 detailed images that depict the formation of exoplanets around distant stars, all happening within these vast protoplanetary disks. Astronomers are rightly calling this dataset an astronomical treasure because it provides observational validation for theories we've relied on for centuries.
And what are we actually seeing in these visuals?
We're seeing dusty rings, bright arcs, sharp edges, faint clouds, the literal building blocks of planets. It's visual evidence that perfectly complements the nebular hypothesis, which describes how planetary systems form from collapsed clouds of gas and dust.
And can they see the planets themselves?
Not directly, but critically, many of these disks show patterns like gaps or sharp internal rings that strongly suggest the gravitational influence of large, unseen planets that are already forming and clearing out their orbital paths.
Just like in our own solar system.
It mirrors structures like our own asteroid and Kuiper belt. Exactly.
And speaking of colossal projects, scientists are working on turning the entire planet into a giant quantum sensor to detect the invisible.
That is the ambition of the Squire project. That's the space-based quantum sensing for interaction and exotic bosons research exploration project.
That's a mouthful.
It is. But the idea is to use Earth's abundant materials and the precision of space-based instruments to act as a single giant quantum sensor.
To detect dark matter.
And exotic bosons. These are hypothesized particles that could make up the vast majority of the universe's unseen mass.
How do you even begin to use the Earth as a detector? That sounds mind-bogglingly complicated.
It relies on quantum mechanics, specifically using what are called quantum spin sensors. These leverage principles like superposition and entanglement, where matter can exist in multiple states at the same time.
So where do they put these sensors?
They deploy these highly sensitive sensors aboard spacecraft, including some that are integrated into the Chinese space station, and they exploit the collective polarized quantum spins of matter within Earth itself.
So Earth becomes part of the instrument.
Think of Earth as the giant dial on a massive low-noise radio receiver. They modulate signals against this background to achieve a detection precision for dark matter signatures that is far beyond anything we could achieve in a lab on the ground.
Before we leave space, we have to give a quick nod to NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, for their excellent work capturing the cosmos for the public. They just won another Emmy.
Yes, their second one, for the 2024 Total Solar Eclipse broadcast. A really well-deserved accolade for science communication.
That broadcast featured, what, 67 cameras?
67 cameras, multiple live feeds across the entire eclipse path, and it garnered an astounding 40 million views globally. It just highlights how cutting-edge science and technology can be translated into phenomenal, unifying public engagement.
All right, now we shift gears dramatically, from capturing distant planets to discussing the colossal terrestrial valuations that are defining our modern economy and shaping future technology. First up, the race for America's most valuable private company.
And it looks like Elon Musk is set to top that list yet again.
With SpaceX.
Yes, the numbers here are just breathtaking. SpaceX is reportedly finalizing talks for a secondary share sale that could value the company at an astronomical $800 billion.
$800 billion.
If that sale is completed, It would officially crown SpaceX as the most valuable private company in the United States. It would significantly surpass the valuation of its closest rival, OpenAI.
To put that in perspective, that's a valuation that rivals established industrial giants. And given Musk's reported stake in the company, what does that mean for him personally?
Well, his 42% stake in SpaceX
Mm-hmm.
would translate to his share alone being worth roughly $336 billion. It reflects immense, almost unprecedented investor confidence.
Confidence in what, exactly? What are the primary drivers behind this nearly unimaginable valuation? It's much more than just rockets, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's driven by three main factors. First, operational efficiency. SpaceX is currently maintaining a staggering launch cadence of more than 3 launches per week.
True.
Second, the proven growing profitability of Starlink, their satellite internet service. That provides a consistent global cash flow. And third, the sheer massive ambition of the Starship program, which promises heavy lift capability and interplanetary travel.
So investors are betting that SpaceX won't just dominate Earth's orbit, but the solar system's logistics.
That's the bet. The risk, of course, is that a single entity holding such a monopoly over access to space is a major geopolitical and economic vulnerability.
Moving from rockets to coding, we have a great story about a startup that's capitalizing on, and maybe even soothing, the public's anxiety about AI.
Udly, a company founded by former Google employees, and they're thriving by insisting their AI is purely an assistant, not a replacement.
It's a brilliant psychological approach to market entry, isn't it?
It is. Udly specializes in AI role-playing tools designed to enhance public speaking and communication skills, and they've successfully tripled their valuation to over $300 million with a recent funding round.
And the product helps people practice high-pressure discussions, right?
Mhm.
Interviews, sales pitches, difficult conversations, and it gives real-time, non-judgmental feedback.
Precisely. On everything, from your tone to your filler words. Their technology is now used by major corporations like Google and Korn Ferry, and it's integrated with organizations like Toastmasters International. They explicitly position their product as a supportive coaching experience,
So they're selling empowerment and personal growth.
which is a powerful differentiator in a crowded AI market that's obsessed with full automation. It tells the user, we're here to make you better, not replace you.
And it seems like we're seeing a full-blown wearable tech arms race right now, all centered on personal intelligence and data capture.
Meta Platforms is making a big push to integrate this personal AI into everyday hardware.
Right, with their acquisition of the AI wearables startup Limitless.
That's a massive indicator of this trajectory. Limitless is known for its pendant-style device that records, transcribes, and summarizes your everyday conversations.
So it's a personal, always-on memory bank.
Essentially, this is Meta's strategic move to expand far beyond the screen and into your daily life, creating this seamless, passive, and intelligent user experience.
And on the health side, we saw a breakthrough focused on mitigating stress, which is one of the most immediate global health crises we face.
That would be Aware, which won the TechCrunch Disrupt Health stage competition. They've developed a discrete, smartwatch-style wearable that uses advanced EEG technology, that's electroencephalogram, to capture real-time stress levels directly from your brainwaves.
And gives you instant actionable feedback.
Right, for mental wellness. It addresses the growing global mental health crisis by giving users a proactive, real-time tool for emotional resilience.
But both of these, Limitless and Aware, they raise profound and immediate privacy concerns. We're talking about devices that passively record everything you say or constantly measure your internal mental state.
That is the challenge of the wearable arms race. The more useful and seamless the technology becomes, the closer it gets to integrating into our biology, the greater the potential for data misuse.
Especially as they get acquired by tech giants.
Exactly. The need for robust regulatory frameworks concerning personal biodata and conversational recordings becomes paramount, especially considering the potential for this data to be used in legal or employment contexts.
Shifting to public safety, autonomous vehicles continue to face major integration hurdles. Waymo, which was formerly the Google's self-driving car project, is facing increased regulatory scrutiny from the federal government.
And that scrutiny follows 19 reported incidents where Waymo robotaxis allegedly passed stopped school buses.
Which is a non-negotiable safety violation.
A huge one. The NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, launched a formal investigation which led to Waymo issuing a software recall affecting 1,200 of its self-driving vehicles.
It suggests the system is struggling with complex, static rules that carry dynamic, real-world risk.
It highlights the fundamental challenge of integrating autonomous vehicles into human traffic. The system failed to correctly interpret the combination of static object recognition, the school bus, and the dynamic traffic law of stopping for flashing red lights.
And a failure like that severely impacts public trust.
It does. It underscores the necessity of continuous, rigorous testing and validation, especially around failure conditions and unpredictable human-driven scenarios, before these vehicles can be safely scaled nationwide.
All right, if we connect this technological and scientific upheaval to the bigger picture, we see a persistent global tension.
A tension between these outward-facing diplomatic overtures and the continued escalation of underlying conflicts.
And the diplomatic front often yields surprisingly limited returns, doesn't it? It feels more like a stage for signaling than for actual policy change.
That's a good way to put it. Let's look at some of the high-level international travel first. French President Emmanuel Macron's recent visit to the People's Republic of China was heavily publicized. It was aimed at bolstering economic ties, addressing global issues.
But reports indicate it yielded modest returns at best.
Which is the diplomatic euphemism for, we talked and nothing changed. President Xi Jinping maintained a highly resolute stance.
So despite discussions on climate and trade,
Xi reinforced China's assertive global priorities and domestic sovereignty over any external pressures. The outcome was largely symbolic, which calls into question the effectiveness of Western diplomatic outreach when facing a power that is determined to steer its own course.
And similarly, the meeting between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin was described by analysts as largely symbolic and predictable.
Right. Analysts noted that the agreements were primarily along familiar lines, consistent with the long-standing historical, strategic, and defense collaboration between Russia and India.
So it was a high-visibility show of solidarity?
Exactly, amid global scrutiny of Russia. Notably, Putin used the visit to officially launch RT India, deepening media and soft power ties. But the meeting didn't result in any major new policy commitments or shifts in global alignment. It confirmed existing dynamics rather than charting a new course.
Moving to the devastating war in Ukraine, we continue to see these sharply contrasting reports. Massive military escalation happening alongside supposed peace progress.
The contrast is stark and chilling. Russia is launching some of the largest waves of missile and drone strikes we've seen against Ukrainian military and energy infrastructure.
Including the use of those high-speed Kinzhal hypersonic missiles?
Yes, causing widespread power outages and critical rail disruption across the country. And simultaneously, the U.S. is reporting progress in ongoing, often clandestine peace talks with Ukrainian officials who are meeting discreetly in Florida. The escalation on the ground seems completely decoupled from the diplomatic theater.
And complicating these peace efforts is the growing, undeniable internal stability crisis within the Ukrainian leadership.
Fueled by significant corruption reports, this is a major liability for them.
A high-profile investigation by the New York Times revealed that President Volodymyr Zelensky's administration has hindered the efforts of independent oversight boards in state firms.
Right. And this environment has allowed corruption to flourish, which is particularly damaging given the billions in Western financial and military aid. Ukraine has received aid that was predicated on stringent monitoring.
The investigation highlighted a $100 million kickback scheme at Energoatom.
Energoatom, Ukraine's state nuclear operator. It forced high-level dismissals, including key staffer Andrei Yermak.
And this internal turmoil is now being strategically used by geopolitical opponents.
Absolutely. The former Ukrainian Prime Minister, Nikolai Azarov, has claimed that the United States is actively considering options, including potentially seeking to depose Zelensky if he's perceived to obstruct peace efforts.
And they're citing the corruption probes and reports of his declining popularity as justification.
Yes. Internal polling suggests his public approval could drop below 20% if elections were held. So the claim is that the U.S. might seek a more compliant leader who is amenable to ending the war. This puts Zelensky in an extremely precarious political position.
On the actual peace conditions, though, the impasse remains fundamental. What are the non-negotiable demands from each side that are preventing a ceasefire?
Well, Ukraine's top military commander, General Alexander Syrsky, has been resolute. He says any just peace requires an immediate ceasefire in negotiations, but fundamentally without ceding a single inch of sovereign Ukrainian territory.
So territorial concessions are completely off the table for Ukraine.
Unacceptable, he said. Conversely, Russia insists on Ukraine withdrawing all forces from the 4 specific regions Russia claims to have annexed: Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson, and Zaporozhye, and adhering to conditions of perpetual neutrality and demilitarization.
Since one side demands complete withdrawal and the other demands complete neutrality and ceding territory.
The positions are, at present, irreconcilable.
Shifting focus to the Middle East, tensions remain acute, particularly concerning humanitarian access and the fate of high-profile political prisoners.
The situation at the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt is a major diplomatic flashpoint. A coalition of influential Arab and Muslim nations, including Egypt, Jordan, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, collectively and unequivocally rejected Israel's proposed exit-only plan for the crossing.
And what was the primary motivation for that sharp, unified rejection?
Their core concern is twofold. First, they fear that an exit-only policy would facilitate the permanent displacement of Palestinian people from Gaza into Egypt,
Creating a massive refugee crisis.
and permanently altering the demographics of the region. And critically, they noted that the plan severely obstructs the necessary entry of vital humanitarian aid and supplies into Gaza. The coalition firmly reiterated its enduring support for a 2-state solution based on the 1967 borders.
We also have deeply troubling concerns being raised over the safety of one of the most prominent imprisoned Palestinian political leaders.
That is Marwan Barghouti. He's been incarcerated since 2002 and holds immense symbolic power. He's often compared to Nelson Mandela in terms of his political influence among Palestinians.
And what are the allegations?
Palestinian groups expressed profound alarm following reports alleging severe abuse by Israeli guards, including broken ribs and a cut ear, during his confinement. The Israeli prison service immediately labeled these claims total lies and propaganda designed to incite unrest. This controversy has heightened global scrutiny over the conditions for political prisoners.
And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is also facing increasing internal political pressure amid his own corruption charges.
Yes, Netanyahu requested a pardon for the corruption charges he faces. He framed it publicly as a necessary move to ease severe social divides and focus entirely on national governance during a time of crisis.
But this comes amid increasing political pressure from the opposition.
Right, from opposition leader Yair Lapid, who is actively consolidating both domestic and international support as a pragmatic, corruption-free alternative to Netanyahu's long-standing leadership.
Finally, we saw persistent regional instability manifesting along contentious borders and in the airspace.
In Central Asia, Pakistan and Afghanistan, following failed border talks, saw a renewal of hostilities. There was an exchange of heavy artillery fire along their shared, contentious border. This underscores the intense fragility of security in that mountainous region.
And in South America.
Venezuela's military intercepted an unidentified hostile aircraft over its territory near the border with Colombia. This occurred amid heightened U.S. tensions, particularly after President Trump expressed the need to close Venezuelan airspace.
And there was a related, highly politicized move from the Venezuelan opposition leader.
Yes, Maria Corina Machado, who is openly defying the Maduro government, dedicated her Nobel Peace Prize award to President Trump, which further escalated the political theater in Caracas.
Shifting back to domestic power structures in the U.S., the Supreme Court is preparing to tackle one of the most foundational concepts of American identity and law:
birthright citizenship.
The Supreme Court has agreed to hear a case that challenges the 14th Amendment principle, which automatically grants citizenship to nearly all individuals born on U.S. soil.
And this case arises directly from an executive order issued by the administration.
This has profound implications, doesn't it? It goes right to the heart of immigration policy and national identity, which has been established for over a century and a half.
It does. The 14th Amendment was ratified post-Civil War, primarily to ensure the citizenship of formerly enslaved people. Critics argue that challenging this undermines a long-standing legal tradition and opens the door to massive changes in immigration law.
And the proponents?
They argue for restricting the principle based on specific parental residency status. They contend that the framers never intended for it to apply universally to unauthorized immigrants. The court's decision is expected to redefine the entire immigration landscape and the concept of national belonging in the United States.
In a related demonstration of executive authority, the D.C. Appeals Court just upheld a very significant ruling concerning federal appointments.
Yes, the court upheld the decision, permitting the president to fire Democrats from 2 independent labor boards without cause. This is a crucial victory for the administration because it significantly reinforces the president's inherent authority over federal appointments.
It raises major questions about the future autonomy and political independence of these supposedly independent federal agencies.
It does. It suggests that future presidents may be able to rapidly reshape the ideological makeup of the entire federal bureaucracy.
Moving to the transatlantic stage, we're seeing a serious regulatory clash erupting between the U.S. and the European Union, specifically targeting Elon Musk's platform, X.
This centers on the European Union's DSA, the Digital Services Act, which is one of the world's most stringent regulatory frameworks for tech platforms. The European Commission fined X a hefty 120 million euros. That's about $140 million for violations.
And what were the violations?
Citing deceptive practices related to the blue checkmark verification system and critically insufficient handling of misinformation and illegal content. This represents the DSA's first formal, massive non-compliance action against a major platform.
And the reaction from U.S. conservative officials and allies has been immediate and contentious, framing it not as a regulatory issue, but as a political attack.
That's the crux of the tension. Administration officials and allies rallied immediately behind Musk, calling the fine an egregious overreach by European regulators and characterizing it as an attack on the American people, specifically targeting American technology companies.
So it's a growing conflict over who sets the rules.
Europe views the DSA as necessary consumer and democratic protection, while the U.S. in this political context views it as economic protectionism and foreign censorship.
This regulatory pushback in Europe is also generating accusations of political censorship from other high-profile tech figures.
Absolutely. The founder of Telegram, Pavel Durov, supported Musk. He claimed the EU uses the DSA not for legitimate content moderation, but to enforce silent censorship, particularly targeting platforms that refuse to censor dissenting or politically conservative voices.
And he referenced his own experience.
He publicly referenced his own detention in France, alleging French intelligence pressured him to censor specific content. Both X and Telegram are arguing the DSA unfairly targets platforms that uphold open dialogue, forcing a fundamental debate over who controls the flow of information globally.
Across the rest of Europe, privacy and political landscapes are shifting dramatically. In Germany, citizens are raising major civil liberty concerns over new surveillance powers granted to the police.
The German House of Representatives approved a truly alarming new law for the Berlin police. It allows officers to secretly enter private homes to install spyware, hack phones and computers, and deploy AI and facial recognition technologies in public areas without immediate judicial oversight.
Critics are warning this is a major step toward an authoritarian surveillance state.
It is. They say it severely erodes foundational civil liberties guaranteed by the German Constitution, even as the Interior Senator, Iris Sprenger, defends it as a necessary measure to combat rising organized crime rates in the capital.
And in the United Kingdom, we are seeing the political center of gravity shifting, with Labour leader Keir Starmer rejecting a key potential tie with the EU.
Yes, Starmer publicly rejected the idea of joining an EU customs union. He's aiming to solidify Labour's commitment to an independent trade policy post-Brexit. It's a critical political move to appeal to the broader electorate and ensure the perception of sovereignty is maintained.
And at the same time, the small Reform UK party is gaining ground.
Led by Nigel Farage, it's gaining significant ground, particularly among younger voters under 30 who feel they're getting a raw deal on issues like housing affordability and job security. This momentum was underscored by the high-profile defection of a Scottish Conservative peer, Malcolm Offord, to Reform UK, signaling a fragmentation of traditional UK Conservative support.
Finally, we have to address the intense, ongoing pressure being put on journalism and press freedom in the U.S. The administration has taken an aggressive institutional stance against reporters.
The administration established a media offenders website that explicitly targets journalists and media outlets accused of spreading false information or bias.
And experts are arguing this resembles a state-sponsored smear campaign.
Yes, representatives from press freedom groups say it severely undermines the safety and credibility of journalists, chilling free speech and eroding the necessary trust required for a functional democracy.
This tension was crystallized in a vicious verbal attack launched by the president against CNN anchor Caitlin Collins.
He publicly attacked her, labeling her stupid and nasty in a widely reported tirade. This behavior reflects a persistent, deep-seated hostility toward mainstream media outlets, which critics argue is designed to intimidate news organizations from conducting rigorous adversarial journalism.
So what does this all mean? We've seen the political administration taking aggressive steps to assert executive and legal authority, and now that influence is shaking the very foundations of American public health policy.
specifically concerning childhood vaccinations. This is undoubtedly one of the most contentious policy shifts in recent health history because it targets a decades-old, universally accepted standard of care.
This is about the CDC Vaccine Committee.
The CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Vaccine Committee, now operating under leadership that includes the prominent vaccine skeptic Robert F. Kennedy Jr., voted to end the long-standing recommendation that all newborns receive the hepatitis B shot at birth.
This is a major reversal of a policy aimed at preventing viral infection in infants, which can lead to liver damage and cancer. What was the political justification for this move?
The justification, championed by the administration, was framed as balancing parental choice against potential health risks and aligning the U.S. with some European nations that only target high-risk groups. The president immediately praised the move, calling it a very good decision, and ordered a comprehensive review of the entire childhood vaccine schedule.
Calling the U.S. an outlier in its policies.
Yes. The move is highly politicized and signals a broader shift in health policy skepticism at the federal level.
And the public health community reaction.
There is widespread, significant alarm among pediatricians and public health advocates. Critics argue that the CDC is now effectively providing a megaphone to the anti-vaccine movement,
citing allegations of biased information being spread at the advisory meeting itself.
Exactly. Advocates worry this decision, by lowering the barrier to infection, will inevitably lead to an increase in Hep B cases among infants, particularly in vulnerable populations. They fear this sets a dangerous precedent for restructuring the entire U.S. childhood immunization schedule based on political pressure rather than established epidemiology.
On a separate but equally urgent front, we have concurrent, massive global humanitarian crises demanding immediate attention.
That's correct. First, in Southeast Asia, catastrophic floods and landslides in Indonesia have left the country reeling. The death toll currently exceeds 883 confirmed fatalities, with hundreds more missing. The situation is dire.
With fears of starvation mounting due to crop devastation.
And severely disrupted aid supply chains, underscoring the region's extreme vulnerability to climate-induced disasters.
And simultaneously, in Africa, the continent is facing a tragic dual health crisis of historic proportions.
Africa is battling its worst cholera outbreak in 25 years, while simultaneously managing a severe surge in malaria cases. Global malaria cases rose by approximately 9 million, reaching a total of 282 million cases.
And this is heavily concentrated in just a few countries?
Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, or DR Congo, and Niger. Together, they account for nearly half of all malaria-related deaths globally. And the overall effort to combat these diseases is suffering from a massive and persistent funding gap.
How big of a gap are we talking about?
Only $3.9 billion was invested in 2024 against an estimated target of $9.3 billion needed by 2025. This critical resource shortage is the main factor preventing stability across the continent.
Let's pivot to the seismic shifts in media and consumer economics. The entertainment industry is being fundamentally reshaped by what's being called the Netflix-Warner Bros. Mega deal.
A consolidation of content power the like of which we haven't seen in decades. This proposed acquisition is truly staggering in scale. Netflix is set to acquire Warner Bros. Film and streaming businesses for a reported $72 to $85 billion.
$72 to $85 billion. That's not just a merger. It is an immense consolidation of intellectual property and distribution power under one roof.
And that price tag grants Netflix ownership of some of the most powerful and enduring IP in cinematic and television history.
We're talking about massive, globally recognized franchises.
Harry Potter, the entire Game of Thrones universe, the entirety of DC Comics content. This move is designed to enhance Netflix's competitive edge dramatically against rivals like Disney Plus Ori, Amazon Prime Video, and Apple TV Plus Miri. It's about ensuring market supremacy.
But while this might be great for subscribers who only want one bill, the creative industry itself seems to be sounding the alarm over this level of consolidation.
Hollywood unions and various guilds are expressing significant concern and alarm over the sheer size of it. Their fear is that such a monumental acquisition will inevitably lead to massive job losses through redundancy.
And it reduces the number of content buyers in the market,
which ultimately compromises creative freedoms. Consolidation means fewer competing voices deciding what gets made, which critics argue stifles diversity in storytelling and reinforces the monolithic power dynamic between a few colossal content owners and the vast network of independent creators.
Now to the markets. Wall Street has seen a steady upward trend recently, fueled by economic indicators.
The S&P 500 index has gained for a fourth consecutive day and is nearing its record high. This market optimism is fueled primarily by a light inflation reading from the PCE index. That's the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index.
Which is the Federal Reserve's preferred measure of inflation.
Right. And it slowed for the first time since April. And that data immediately fuels speculation that the Fed might finally ease up on interest rates.
Which typically boosts stock markets.
Correct. Investors are speculating that decelerating inflation could prompt the Fed to begin easing interest rates soon. However, we should note the mixed signal here. This market optimism comes despite persistent reports of stagnant consumer spending.
So there's a disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street.
A significant one? It suggests the underlying economic vitality isn't keeping pace with market sentiment.
We're also seeing a very interesting shift in how everyday people are managing their investments, pivoting away from traditional corporate models in search of stability.
There's a clear, growing trend of everyday investors pivoting toward monthly income-generating ETFs, exchange-traded funds. They're using these ETFs specifically to augment or replace their traditional monthly paychecks.
And this is driven by a desire for consistent cash flow.
A powerful desire for consistent monthly cash flow, often coupled with a growing disillusionment with traditional corporate work culture, the grind, the lack of flexibility. Investors are using strategic financial planning to seek more immediate income streams and greater lifestyle autonomy.
Finally, in labor news, we have high-profile strikes and demonstrations underscoring the ongoing tension between workers and major corporations.
In New York City, hundreds of Starbucks union workers staged a passionate protest and strike, demanding fair wages and a comprehensive contract negotiation. They physically blocked the entrance to the Empire State Building, where a high-profile Starbucks operates, ensuring maximum visibility.
And this action gained significant public support.
It did, notably from both the outgoing NYC Mayor Eric Adams and the incoming progressive Mayor Zohran Madani.
And shifting accountability overseas, the chaos surrounding Indigo Airlines in India prompted government intervention and a very viral moment that encapsulated public frustration.
The massive cancellations and delays left hundreds of passengers stranded and led to exorbitant, opportunistic price surging on tickets. This prompted the Indian government's Civil Aviation Ministry to cap fares immediately to prevent what they termed opportunistic pricing.
And this corporate failure sparked a viral moment on social media.
It did. Users widely shared a famous 2009 video of Russian President Vladimir Putin publicly chastising an oligarch on live television for failing to pay his workers.
I imagine the juxtaposition highlighted the public's desire for strong, visible action against corporations perceived to be taking advantage of consumers.
Exactly. The Putin video became a potent symbol reflecting the widespread desire for immediate, authoritative state assertion of power against perceived corporate negligence and greed.
We've covered science and geopolitics. Let's transition to the global unifiers. Sports, celebrations, and profound acts of human kindness. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is already generating immense global attention.
And serving as an unexpected diplomatic stage, it's projected to be the most expensive tournament ever, jointly hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The draw revealed some thrilling group stage matchups.
France versus Norway should be good.
France with Mbappe against Norway with Haaland. England versus Croatia. Scotland versus Brazil. The tournament promises high-stakes drama on the pitch.
But the political spotlight unexpectedly shone brightest on the tournament's host country's leader.
That's right. President Donald Trump was awarded the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize prior to the draw, which immediately generated global controversy.
Critics cited his aggressive foreign policy decisions and militaristic approach.
And questioned the appropriateness of endorsing the president for a peace award, suggesting it undermined FIFA's supposed political neutrality and was a blatant political endorsement.
However, the president leveraged the high-profile media coverage of the draw for high-stakes diplomacy, didn't he?
He did. The draw served as the backdrop for his first direct meeting with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. The three leaders held a focused, 45-minute discussion centered on trade, specifically the ongoing review of the USMCA, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, and critical immigration issues.
It highlights how major sporting events can serve as platforms for crucial political negotiations outside traditional settings.
Exactly.
Now for the stories that warm the soul, genuine acts of kindness facilitated by digital connection.
The story of the 88-year-old Michigan cashier, Bombas, is truly heartwarming. He was unexpectedly gifted over $1.7 million.
Raised entirely by a 22-year-old Australian TikToker named Sam Weidenhofer.
Through an online campaign that involved over 15,000 international donors.
$1.7 million allows him to retire debt-free and with dignity. That is an incredible display of global human compassion facilitated by social media.
It is a profound display of human connection. And it underscores the challenges many seniors face in the current economy, forced to work well past retirement age.
And in another sign of global hope.
The city of Bethlehem celebrated the lighting of its Christmas tree for the first time since the onset of the conflict in Gaza. It symbolized a return to tradition and a potent sign of resilience after 2 years of cancellations.
Finally, we saw high-profile protests and continuing concerns over safety and governance across the globe.
A protest group called Take Back Power staged a highly unusual demonstration at the Tower of London. It resulted in the arrest of 4 members after they defaced the display case of King Charles's crown jewels with custard and apple crumble.
Their motive was protesting climate inaction.
Yes, they selected a potent, internationally recognized symbol of British authority for their unconventional, messy method.
And concerns over inadequate governance oversight continue in Hong Kong following a deadly fire.
The tragic fire raised serious safety concerns among residents, particularly after reports indicated the contractor responsible had a history of safety breaches and inadequate compliance. This led to a significant resident revolt, which tested the control of the Beijing governance structure.
We also saw an alarming expose on fraud impacting public safety in the United Kingdom.
Yes, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, exposed driving test touts who are offering driving instructors lucrative £250 monthly kickbacks to exploit their credentials and bulk book driving tests.
These highly sought-after test slots are then resold at massively inflated prices.
Which not only undermines the fairness and integrity of the testing system, but critically compromises road safety by potentially allowing unqualified or poorly tested individuals onto UK roads.
We have covered an enormous amount of ground in this deep dive, but the themes that tie it all together are undeniable. The urgency of climate action is far greater than anyone realized.
Given that the sea sponge revelation suggests we passed the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold decades ago.
We saw the rapid reshaping of media power with the Netflix-Warner Bros. Mega deal, and we observed the complex, often frustrating dance of global diplomacy.
Where symbolic gestures like the Modi-Putin meeting or the controversial FIFA Peace Prize often mask persistent geopolitical tensions.
What's astonishing is the sheer pace of conceptual change and the constant redefining of boundaries, whether they're biological, political, or physical.
The new logarithmic age formula for our dogs, the Texas A&M nanoflowers promising cellular rejuvenation, the UNITA signals defying the standard model. It all reminds us that our most familiar systems are constantly being refined.
We are evolving our pets and simultaneously questioning the very definition of mortality.
Exactly.
And that leaves us with a final, provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over this week. If scientists can recharge aging cells using advanced nanomaterials and detect organized brain activity that seems to defy the moment of cardiac death, should society prepare right now to fundamentally redefine mortality and what it truly means to be alive in the next decade?
It's a question that cuts right through policy, science, ethics, and law, forcing us to confront the reality of a fluid mortality. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.
Until next time.
For enjoying Artificially Informed.
Hit subscribe and share it with a friend.
From the left, the right, and straight from the algorithm.
Thank you.
That's it for today's Artificially Informed.
Nope. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Yeah.
Stay sharp, stay curious. See you next time.